Hi, welcome to Symphonic Destruction Tips and Tutorials. My name is Alejandro, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the macro control to modulate the effects included in the main page to create a truly dynamic drone or pedal tone. A simple yet very effective device to use as an underscore to create tension or an ominous atmosphere by setting up a low sustain note that can be modulated over time. Also, we're going to explore how to add drama by modulating the delay parameters and how to bring it all together to create a tantalizing music bed, building upon our previous video on the cycle page. So hold on tight because this video is packed with the goodies. Here we go! The Symphonic Destruction engine is an extremely powerful tool when it comes to shaping your sound, and at its heart, the main effects page gives you access to a host of effects that can be accessed via their display name. For this episode, we're going to work with the damaged sustain source called power lines, an evolving distorted brass pad that will work great in creating an expressive and dynamic pedal tone. You can certainly experiment with other sources, especially in the hybrid and organic categories, to create different flavors of sound. Next, in the options page, we're going to click on the Activate Dynamics control. This button allows the macro control to determine the volume of the source rather than velocity. This way we can retain control over the source volume as we start building the layers on the particular sound. This is the sound we're starting with. Now, the first layer of expression we're going to add is a low-pass filter, so we can emulate the way in which timbre is affected with volume change, where a softer sound will usually have a darker tone, and as it becomes louder, the sound will become brighter. For this, we're going to turn on the filter for this channel and set a pretty low cutoff frequency of around 50 Hz. Now, to be able to open up the filter with the volume, we're going to modulate the cutoff frequency by turning the power button on to allow the macro knob to control the filter page, and click and drag the arrows next to the cutoff to assign the amount of modulation. Notice how the dot in the teal line indicates the position of the cutoff as modulated by the macro knob. I personally like to set the filter so that it still cuts out some of the top end at the loudest volume. That gives it a bit of an analog warmth to it. Definitely experiment with the cutoff values to adjust the behavior to your liking. For our next layer, we're going to use some saturation from the drive page, which can be very helpful in creating a sound source that goes from soft and tamed to aggressive and wild by varying the amount of gain applied to the source. Certainly experiment with the 3 types of saturation to find the flavor that you like. I find that Tape 1 adds a really nice scorched character at its loudest drive setting. Next, I'm going to modulate the drive knob with the macro control. This way, the louder the source gets, the more drive it is applied to it, compounding the effects of the volume level and the filter opening up. One cool trick here is to use the switch button next to the macro slider so that instead of setting the lowest drive value and modulating up, I can set up my max drive value for my loudest dynamic and then modulate backwards towards my softest volume level. Switching the direction of the macro slider is particularly useful to set up a gain stage. I can compensate for any added volume in the saturation effect using the out knob, and also compensate for the drop in volume at the lower drive levels by making the output louder as the drive amount decreases. Now that we have set our modulation layers, we can add some drama with the delay in the space page. We can start by setting a time value of 3/16 notes to create a sense of groove, a medium feedback, and a medium high level of width. Also, let's not skimp with that amount knob. A 2.6 dB value is a good starting point to make sure that that delay comes to the foreground. And as a subtle note here, a 100% value on the stereo width would set a ping-pong delay that will bounce between right and left channel indefinitely. Whereas a slightly lower value, say 85%, will make each subsequent repetition move towards the center channel, adding a cool stereo progression inwards. Lastly, to marry this effect better with our dynamics, let's modulate the amount to go with the dynamic layers, softer at the lower levels and louder at the highest. This will ensure that the delays from louder dynamic layers don't stick out too much when we suddenly shift from loud to soft. We can take this idea further and narrow the width for softer dynamics for a more intimate sound at soft levels, and a longer feedback at lower volumes to keep it alive for a bit longer. Okay, now to give you a glimpse of how we can use this drone sound, I've created a preset using loop source material manipulated through the cycle page. On channel 3 we have a percussive bed with a very short attack and release settings. And channel 2 with a much slower rate to add sparse notes filled with reverb for some vibe. If you need a refresher on how to manipulate your loop sources to get sounds like these, make sure you check out our tutorial on the cycle engine with a link in the description below. Here's a little taste of what these presets sounds with all 3 channels combined. So there you go, a drone tone with layers of dynamic modulation using the macro knob to modulate our effects. If you like the content in this video, please give it a like and share. If you haven't already purchased Symphonic Destruction, head over to Heavyocity.com and purchase your copy. And if you want to stay up to date with all of our new releases, make sure to subscribe to our channel. See you next time!